大家好，刚才曾老师介绍我叫杨一昭，我是在美国俄勒冈大学我们叫 School of Planning, Public Policy Management， 我是那里的 professor， 我特别的荣幸感觉到今天能到另一个清华大学，我在国内的清华大学读了3年书，那是在 late 1990s， 这次到另外清华大学看到，我回忆起当年在学校里上课的样子，还是很有感触。那就进入到正题吧。其实我今天讲这个题目呢，并不在于是哪一个学科或者哪一个专业知识，既然这是我教学大概已经有差不多20年以后我自己的一个探索，就是说，我知道怎么做研究。看今天曾老师给你们谈论的各种的做这个城市形象也好，环境的认知也好，这些 research 东西，我们其实大家读的 literature 类似，做的研究方法类似，做 survey 也好，做 observation 也好，最后拿到 data 做 analysis 也好，其实大家或多或少都在一个 journey 里面在进步。其实我现在探索另外一个是，我作为一个老师 ，I wear 3 hats， right? I'm a professor, I'm a researcher。我的很重要的任务是 generating new knowledge，like everybody here does, like Professor does that。但是我同时也是一个 educator， 我在教书，我在 disseminate knowledge。不好意思我可能就中英混合，有的时候其实我的翻译到中文反而不是那么准确。我是一个 educator，I disseminate 这个 knowledge 到学生。那我选择什么样的主要的文献你阅读，我来选择你们可能要做什么样的 research。我为什么要选择这样的？怎么样选择的这样 teaching 的这样更 effective？这件 research 我其实很少做。另外一个 third hat 就是我怎么能够保证学生经过了这样的学习以后，真的是一个非常有 impactful person， 就是你们将来学习以后真的可以到生活里面去 become 一个 active agent， 你们呢带来的是 positive impact 到我们的 community， 你们帮助的是那些 vulnerable population， 真的能帮助他们能够在社会里面能够获得更好的机会、更好的结果。So how do I know the last two? I know I'm pretty good at doing research myself. I have a professor around 10 years. But how do I know I'm good at doing the second one? And that was really what drove this research myself. And 第一个 slide 基本上就是 where am I think including Professor Zheng. And at a certain point, you have to start asking these questions. Right? So, researcher, disseminator, facilitator, which I'm more like a mentor helping you go out. 但是这个过程里面，就是我怎么能够知道我做得更好，或者做到了我想要做到的，我能 deliver my goal。这里面就提到了 how do I know we're achieving our goals? Educational goals, not the research part. Although they are combined, they are not disconnected. So this is where I got into this new field, this is called discipline-based education research. This is really about you study research itself, and you understand the learning outcomes are the kind of outcomes that matter for our society, for our planet. And also your teaching, I use the word pedagogy, 教育方式 pedagogy, effective, efficient, and delivers what we want. 有些这些bullet points 里面我后来会提到，但是 that's what I kind of drove what I'm thinking. So 因为我的 discipline 这个是 matter to what research I do, what knowledge I generate, and how can I become what's called expert. 这是我的 discipline. So it's a discipline specific knowledge, but it becomes discipline specific education. 因为你们是教学，我的学生是属于 what I call placemaking relevant. So 你们的学生是 designer, architect, urban planner. 所有这些学生出门以后，接受了 education 以后，他们都会参与到或多或少，在这个making place, making 一个 environment to support 我们的 healthy lifestyle, support 我们更healthy, positive social interaction. 所以我们的学生是要 I characterize them as placemaking relevant disciplines.
没有这样 子写心得。
Oh,
连写在 online 就好了。
yeah. So for this group of students, what is the best learning journey, learning experience? It comes from learning science, education research. 因为比如说你是学我们叫理工科，学 STEM, like science, like physics, and chemistry, versus if you're going to school, let's say learning business, learning law, 他们的 education experience 或者老师用的 education 的方法实际上是很不一样的，然后他们要去研究的目的和方向也是很不一样的。然后呢，这个 education 的 method 不同，实际上来自于我们最终想要让学生获得的知识、获得的技能，还有更重要的出现的一个价值观，就是 the value orientation。所以最终就是说 ，from based on different discipline, what kind of knowledge the student need to acquire in order to become competent, what kind of skills they need to acquire so that they can apply, they can do the work, and ultimately, one of their ethical stance, 他们的价值观，他们的 what's the best way to say, like ethical stance, value orientation. So what is the impact you want to generate? It depends on the discipline you're from. So I wanted to, 其实很多这个不同学科都可以很具体到哪一种 skill 也好，哪一种 knowledge 也好 ，in order to generate 一个能够通用的一个，说我们学生应该获得的什么样的知识智能。Instead of talking about 我们自己的专业 ，I'm going to talk about education for sustainability， 就是所谓的为永续来做的教育。这个地方就直接 borrow 了一个 definition，education participated. Education for sustainability develops the knowledge, skills, values, and worldviews. The three parts I mentioned, necessary for people to act in ways that contribute to more sustainable patterns of living. This is our goal, is the living of our human beings on the planet is healthy for ourselves, is also within the limits of our planetary health too. Enables individuals and communities to reflect on ways of interpreting, engaging with the world. So it's an adaptive process. Your learning doesn't stop after you finish your school. Your learning continues throughout your entire life because you need to reflect, you need to adapt. Sustainability education, so it is about future-oriented, focusing on protecting the environment and creating a more ecologically, socially just world through informed action. Actions that support more sustainable patterns of living require consideration of environmental, social, cultural, and economic systems and their interdependence. This is a very lengthy definition. Just your first thought. What brings you to think about? If I ask you, think about three words. When you think about sustainability, what comes to your mind? Just raise your hand if you want to give me an answer. Three words. When you think about sustainability, no right or wrong answer.
If you want to answer,
Or
please
just
raise
shout
your
out.
hand.
Yeah.
Carbon, extra points.
Actual points, yeah. And no right or wrong answer.
Habibi, what about you?
Social justice.
Social justice. Okay. Just two words.
Oh.
Another one? Anyone you want to add?
Green.
Green.
Social justice and economic, social and economic justice.
Social and economic justice. Yeah. Any other idea? Recycle. Yeah. Just one word is not bad. Okay.
What else?
Oh, since nobody wants to volunteer, we'll just go one by. Okay, there's one. Reduce. I'm going to actually go one by one. Just shout out one word from this person and go with this person.
Okay.
Okay,
And
let's
what
go.
about
Yeah. One word. Sustainability. What does sustainability mean to you? One word。中文也可以，咱们说中文英文都可以。
没有，我用英文可以，只是要用一个字。Sustainability 是说 it's possibly more about like how we treat our future, right?
Future.
Yeah.
I want just one word. Future. Next.
Okay,
One word.
just one word.
Reduce. 你想到永续的时候，你立刻想到的一个字眼或者词汇是什么 ？Human environment. Yeah. Reduce. Experience.
SDGs.
Oh, SDGs. Oh, okay. Sustainable Development Goals. Yeah. Environment. 对，从这里来。
Yeah. Second of all,
Culture. Yeah. Ecology. People. Manufacturing.
Carbon capture.
Urban.
Carbon capture.
Carbon capture. Carbon capture. Yeah. Yeah.
Recycle.
Recycle.
cycle.
Corporation.
Corporation.
Policy.
Policy. Environment. Eco-friendly.
Friendly and beauty.
Fair.
Fair. Okay, next. You.
ESG.
Next.
Reusable bags.
Reusable bags. Can you 净零排放 zero carbon.
Okay. Zero.
可以
Diversity.
Good. Next. whole earth.
Whole
整
earth.
个公司的 whole earth.
Whole earth. Yeah.
whole earth.
Rights.
Right.
Capitalism.
Global.
Resource. Earth.
Oh, you already
Yeah.
answered.
The social economic justice.
Yeah. Next. Economy.
Economy.
Education. Next. Ecosystem. Reuse. Great.
Okay. Carbon
footprint. 看主机
about economic systems.
Economic systems. 经济系统 Green.
Green.
Survive. Environment.
Net zero.
Net zero.
Governance.
Governance.
治理
Energy.
这样老师不用好，你也可以答。
Water. Renewable. SDGs.
Social justice. Ecosystem. Agriculture. Culture. Conservation.
Great.
可以做个文字语。
Yeah, I can get a word cloud, and I will show you a word cloud later. So, and you can see very diverse keywords. It doesn't have to be something you have to think around to get it. It doesn't have to be an educated outcome. It could be something that just relevant to your daily experience or based on what you observe. You think what is important. Because, like I said, no wrong answer. Sustainability is a lived experience for people depending on where you are. Sustainability could mean basic survival. Right? But it could mean we need to achieve renewable energy. We need to make sure everybody has equal access to clean water. So my belief is I'm not educating you to think what should be right, but I can educate you to think, to consider how to think about it. And I think that's the sustainability education is about. It's helping you to think it in a future-oriented way to help you to think that sustainability is systems. It doesn't rely on one thing. It has to be multiple systems work together. And also require to be able to develop empathy toward other values, other perspectives, so that you can engage other people. You can put your foot in other people's shoes, so you understand sustainability can indeed mean many different things. Right? So the words here actually put together translate to what we call competency-oriented sustainability education. So actually, for me, it took me a while to think about competence, competency. Anybody recognize these three words or how they are different? Competent. What does competent mean? Your Professor Zhang is a very competent researcher. She produced scholarship in high-ranking journals, and she's well regarded in data. Competent.
有能力的。
能干的，有能力的。Competence. C, not CY. Competence. So we're looking at the CY. There's a second word. Competence. Listen, the first one is an adjective. The second one now we're looking at a noun, a word. So we would like to have our students to be sustainable, to demonstrate sustainability competence, which means once you graduate, you acquire necessary knowledge, skill, you can do the work, you can do the job. So you are a competent person, you demonstrate competence. When we're looking at competency, this is the third word. And this one is a noun and can be plural. You can look at competencies. And this is key competencies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is getting into being a competent person into 5 very concrete domains or areas. So this is help us think about how we can educate you to be a competent person. So we just say you need to be a very competent person, you demonstrate competence. That's a very abstract. We're still talking at very general broad terms. But once we get into the key competencies, and that becomes very concrete. So this means we want to mold your value so that you develop the competence to be able to understand other values, be able to work with people who are from different groups, different perspectives. So that's what we call values thinking. Be able to basically require to be open-minded. And the second one is you become very competent at integrate different systems in your analysis and your thinking. So for example, Professor Zheng was asking you, when you look at your environment, and wayfinding is very important. Okay? So what do you think about wayfinding should be defined? Is it defined by you, young people, or defined by people who have a disability, or defined by people who have older or younger age, they have cognitive barriers, or define people from different culture, they have a different way of express spatial meaning. That's where value comes in. You immediately know that whatever you're thinking only represents one perspective, one group. There are multiple perspectives, multiple group of people that you need to incorporate in their thinking. And when you look at wayfinding, you need to look at roads, right? Look at connectivity, look at destination, and that requires data from different sources. You need transportation, you need tribal behavior, You need people to understand their psychological reactions. You need to understand linguistics. How people recognize words in the wayfinding sign. That's linguistic content. You need to look at color contrast. What is the best way of illustrating wayfinding? Convey the message on the wayfinding board. Even different way of translation, different text fonts, different size of text fonts. That all matters. And that's where the system thinking comes in. You need to require a lot of disciplinary understanding. You don't have to be experts in every discipline, but you understand that in order to do a good job, you have to bring a lot of disciplines, knowledge, and understanding into the system. And futures thinking. Is this place going to be changed in the future? Are we anticipating people who come into this place, look at your wayfinding design with completely different needs? Okay? So a lot of how do we build into our work that it can be adaptable to future. And depends on that's future thinking. That implies you to be creative, require you to be anticipatory instead of reactive. And also depends on the wayfinding, the purpose. Let's say if you're wayfinding, the purpose is not just about letting people know where they are, but guiding them to a particular destination. Let's say the city wants to make this area to be a tourist attraction. They wanting to use this place to generate economic return. They probably bring in local economic activities. So maybe your wayfinding is to guide people go to the places where they can spend money, where they can stay. Right? So is your wayfinding help achieve that goal? That's the strategic thinking. Is your action followed by the goals and by the objectives? And that's something we need to learn and acquire. And also in this whole process, never of those activities can be done by one person alone. It requires collaboration. Not just collaboration among your teams, you as maybe professionals, experts, or students. It requires collaboration from the users, the people you are trying to, let's say, build your wayfinding sign to serve. So asking the users how they react to your work so that you can improve. That's part of the collaboration you need to purposefully to seek instead of being asked, shall we do a POE, post-occupancy evaluation, so that's what we're going to go ask the user. Now we actually bring those consideration early on. So all those 5 competency levels is what I believe education and sustainability really matter. If you check the literature, this is certain competencies are promoted by UNESCO, which is the main international organization that's in charge of sustainability education. And with support from OECD and EU, so over 2 decades of scholarly work and the build-up of educational, environmental education, environment that turned into this key competency area. And typically range from 4 to, I've seen from 4 areas to 7 to 9. And I identified 5 of them because I think that's most relevant to the placement of field student. And I'm hoping that I incorporate this education outcome into my teaching. And I will use the Galapagos as an example to demonstrate my effort. But whether it has been successful, effective, that requires research to provide empirical evidence, and that's what I'm still working on. Any questions? So far, okay, mixed Chinese, English, yeah. Okay. And feel free to ask questions.
如果同学有问题的话，可以随时举手，没有关系。
Okay. skip this very quickly. So this is what we were looking at from competency to competencies. And this is the focus of my educational goal. So I use competencies as the learning outcome. So to reiterate, system thinking, future thinking, ethics and equity, strategic actions, and collaboration. And how do we know students achieve sustainability competencies? And there are many different ways. So like you can see, this is a general level of competency description. It doesn't have to be tied to a particular discipline or particular major. I believe those competencies also apply to all the students in this classroom as well. And in order to become an active, positive impact person, acquire those competencies while you're in school will help you become a very, very strong and good professional or a leader or generally just a citizen. So then we already know that how competent they are and what competency level they have acquired. This is from the existing educational research. So you can ask them to answer questions, evaluate their performance, check their projects, and we'll ask them to do a self-evaluation. And all you observe them, like how do they behave within team, how do they engage with stakeholders, and evaluate the produced output. So there are many different ways you can do it, and then it's being used by different researchers. And what I did so far is I developed a competency self-assessment. So you can use your phones. This is not an exam. Like I said, it's very much of self-evaluation. This is more like a baseline you can establish. It's a rather long survey. So you can take a look, see if you wanted to do a self-evaluation. The questions from this survey are based on EU, the European Union's green literature. So this is a set of questions evaluating for 5 dimensions that related to system thinking, future thinking, collaboration, value, and the things that we started. So but I turned it into 8 questions. So mostly based on your own understanding. So the first question was asking, what are the keywords you think are most relevant to sustainability? So you can type it. If you don't, there's a time you can explore other questions, but if you want to type anything, just finish the first question, you can do that. Okay. So now I know my goal is to integrate sustainability competency into my teaching, and I figured out a way to evaluate it. And then next thing I want to do is develop or design my teaching, so pedagogy, so that I can deliver what I wanted to is improve students' sustainability competency. So my goal is to evaluate after students take my class whether their competency level has improved. I'm not asking students to demonstrate the highest level of competencies. I'm just trying to say, did you learn what you need to learn so that you become better at future thinking, system thinking, better in collaboration, better understanding values? So those are always learn competency. So you can see that what I usually do is I start a class at the first day of my term. I ask them to finish this survey. And it's assignment to do. It takes them 20 to 25 minutes, and then they submit their assignment. And at the end of the term, we typically have a 10 minutes of learning and quarter system, and I ask them to do the survey again. And I told them, you don't have to remember what you answered at the beginning of the term. Just answer what comes to your mind at this moment when you take this survey. So I'll show you some of the results I have. Okay, so this is assessment, but in terms of design the best pedagogy, I found this quote from Xun to be very, very good at summarizing what is best pedagogy. So what's the best way to teach? So what Xun definitely said in Chinese, so not hearing is not good as hearing it. So at least hearing is first step. And then you need to see it. That's better than just hearing it. And then seeing it and being understanding. You learn, you study, you understand it. So that's understanding. But only when you put it into practice. So what you have acquired in your mind, like you learned from a textbook, you learned from your class, listening from the teacher's lectures, is not as good as you being able to apply it. So according to Xun, the highest level of learning is learned by doing. And I basically looked into the educational research plus the sustainability education literature. And this is very text heavy. What I did was basically decompose pedagogy into 3 parts. So what is the pedagogy means how to teach. So as a teacher, I get to choose activity for activity. Like today, Professor Zheng asked you to the Kahoot exercise as a very active learning activity. And I also decide what's the sequence of your learning. So I introduce theories first, introduce concept, and then I introduce cases so that you can use the case to understand the theory. And that's my design in terms of the logic learning process. And I decide what I use to help you learn, what book you use, what books you use, what data you get to engage with, and even maybe have peer learning, you learn from your peer student exercises. So all this is my canvas when it comes to teaching that and decide what to use. And what I found out is project-based learning, place-based learning, collaborative learning, and inquiry-based learning has a very strong impact on those 5 competencies. For example, if I bring student out of a classroom, onto a place like Galapagos, you look at that program, I really help expose students to different people, to community members, to government officials, to students from other universities. So that is very good at shaping their values, changing their stance. And that also helps improve their collaboration, communication skills. Because they need to know how to work with people that use completely different language. And then they may not, like for example, community members, they may not know all the terms, jargons you use in your classroom, but they have their knowledge, their lived experience. And then they know much better about that place, that student. So that's why place-based learning is almost an advantage. And I also help students make them to be more critical, because they can compare and contrast between what they learn in textbook versus what they learn in the real world, in the real place. And they also become much more strategic in terms of, if this is my goal, what are the actions I should take? And they also become more intentional in terms of problem solving. So each of these learning or teaching strategies brings in a good impact on students. So for me, it's how I put them together so that I can design this Galapagos study abroad program. So what I did was make it place-based teaching. But in order for students to be able to fully appreciate a place-based learning, is I bring lots of place-based cases first. So before they go out to the site, I bring case studies such as a homeless housing shelter in our city, and how we can use this case study to understand people who are in great need for housing and have to rely on these shared resources. So I bring other case studies into the classroom to prepare students to understand when you go to a place, if you want to learn about the place, what information you need to have. So understand history of the place, total population, what's their major economy, what is the composition of their demographics, what are the major issues this place that people are witnessing in the last decade, what is the major government functions, what are the major stakeholders that were very active in locally. So you learn to how to understand the place. That's the first step before they go to the place. And then teach them how to do in-depth research. Because when you go out to a place to learn, you are being there with very limited time. So we only stay there for 3 weeks. Your study, your learning should start way before you set your foot in this place, on the site. So give them readings on the history of this place, and I stack the readings in terms of just become understanding of basic facts to how can you connect the facts together so that you can interpret the underlying logic. So this place, why does the conservation and economic development has such a huge conflict? Right? So students turn to come to a place, understand how valuable ecologically that place is, and then their immediate reactions, conservation should be the top priority that should first. Once they put on the ground and realize, if you don't invest in people, let them to have a good livelihood, you can't even talk about conservation. So how you can prevent people from going to the protected area to collect resources they can use. Conservation could be done in the name of harming people. That's what natural observe. So research, develop critical thinking. And then how do you engage with community members? So you need to be prepared. What's the right question to ask? We tend to be going to a place with our privileged background, all very well educated. It's often easy that you go in with the sense that we're coming here to save you. We are the know-how people. We actually cannot be in that situation. We just stay humble. And knowledge produced, and we recognize and appreciate knowledge produced by the student. So our students go in a place and stay with the host family, and we always encourage them, talk with your host family and understand why they are doing what they do, and understand their lifestyle. Don't be judgmental, because the knowledge you learn helps you understand the place and help you understand what sustainability really means for people there. So I'm going to present this Galapagos case study. And this is all the design put in this effort is very specific to the environment intervention. And we have a clear research question built in, which is, do students improve their accessibility competency after completing this 3-week class? So obviously we wanted to do a good job giving students very rewarding, immersive learning experience. But we also wanted to use that experience to be a research opportunity for us as well. 好，那我继续上面刚才我们讲到的这个sustainability competencies 作为 learning outcome， 然后呢，怎么设计这个教育的这个过程？那现在这个我介绍是一个例子，我们从2024年，带学生去这个Galapagos，这是一个在高哥多，像太平洋 一个厄瓜多尔本境的一个群岛，我们带学生去那里做 summer study abroad program. Where the Galapagos. So this is an archipelago, and about 1,000 kilometers from Ecuador mainland. There are about 20 islands within this archipelago. 4 of them have permanent human settlements. And our main education site is in island San Cristobal. This is an area that's one of the earliest UNESCO's urban world human nature heritage. And this is a place that's known for very diverse, unique biodiversity. 大家可能都听到过达尔文化。这个地方呢，实际上是当年60年代，达尔文在这个岛屿居住过大概有2个月。他当时观察到这里面的这个各种物种，虽然这些物都是同一个物种，但是因为它们的生活在不同的这个岛呢，因为就是达尔文最后写出他的那个物种进化，就是 origin of species 里面这个一个地点。这个地方最有 unique biodiversity， 然后呢，它在整个这个evolution of biology 这个 discipline 起得非常重要的一个很多的 science 去来做 scientific discovery， 现在也是作为一个UNESCO heritage site， 整个这个地区，刚才我们看到这个群岛，97% of 整个岛都是被保护起来的，只有呢3% 是set aside 可以有 human habitat， 所以我们现在看到有4个比较小的。这里面有，我在想可能那里有同学去，应该没有去。
同学有人去喝的瓜多吗？没有。
欢迎你们进入。这个是欧普博物馆，它的这几个很重要的这个物种，像这个 iguana、tortoise、sea lion 和这个blue footed booby， 这些都是 endemic species， 只有在当地才能找到，还有它的特殊的资源。这个达尔文呢，它的有一个Charles Darwin Foundation， 它现在在这个地区有它的 research， 然后它有一个重要的一个research center， 就是做那个 tortoise breeding， 就是然后他们把这些其实应该是陆地龟，然后都保护起来，然后做这个保证它们物种的纯种在各个地区要再释放到这个原始的这个环境中。他们现在已经差不多释放了8000只这种breed 出来的这个 tortoise。conservation 是一个非常非常重要的部分，在这个地区。它的主要的这个 threat 来自 of course 那个 climate change、invasive species and human， 这些都来自于它这个当地的这个settlement 的影响。还有 tourism， 这个当地的 total population is about 30,000， 但是它的 annual tourist visitor 能达到它10 times of the population， 300,000 people, more than 300,000 visit this place yearly. There is a pretty strong scientific research lab in the place, particularly marine ecosystem research. And this is the campus site where we do our class and the student work on project. And there are a lot of labs set up. And as of now, there is very limited research on human settlements. Most of research is devoted to the natural science and natural ecosystem. And our goal, bringing our students to the site, has 2 purposes. One is education, immersive learning experience. But the other one is we integrate research on human settlement and human impact on the environment to help us better understand whether there could be a harmonious coexistence between human and nature. the goal is not to get human out of the place. The goal is to help human beings live a good quality of life, become a responsible steward of their environment. And you can see over here, Yizhao, one of the more urban sites where they have 25,000 residents. And you can see the coexistence of wildlife, sea lions, just they are not afraid of humans there at all. So ecotourism is one of the major economic sources of this place. And geologically, there is the coastline, that's where the tourism economic activities take place. But if you go inland, they have highlands, and then you get very distinct climate zones, and then there are local people who engage in agriculture, farming, and also some grazing activities. So, and then they also have pretty unique landform. So this is volcanic islands where you have basically lava tunnels under the surface. So we have our 3 week, 6 credits Sustainable Cities Landscape. We call it a workshop because there's a project involved in the process. And typically we go to the last week of June and stay 2 weeks into July. And this is our plan time for this year, 2026. And our goal in terms of the learning outcomes, so there's a knowledge portion, skills, and values. This is very much connected to the sustainability competencies. And we have students coming from a very diverse background. So there are students from the planning school, landscape architecture, environmental studies, environmental science, geography, political science. So it's a very good experience for students from different backgrounds to work together. And this program is also open to non-enrolled students. So we work with the University of San Francisco in Quito, which is a local university. That campus is their branch campus on island of San Cristobal. So we have UNO students, so American students. We have students from Ecuador. And this year, actually in the past, we also have students from the University of Hong Kong. And we are looking to get more students from other universities, like Peking University, and I think next year we may have another group of American students from the University of Washington who will join us. So come back to the pedagogical design that I discussed earlier. So we very intentionally bring in place-based, problem-driven research inquiry while collaborative learning experience in this program. So in order to help students take advantage of being on site and learn about local conditions. During the day, students go to visit local infrastructure, conduct city walks. They have visited landfill, waste management site, and water plants. And we encourage students to have unguided interaction with their host families. And we also give them tools to collect data. So each student are given a sketchbook. So they document everything they notice. And we also have a community feedback session where they learn from the communities. So the material tools in this part, place-based is reading, sketch, GS data collection. And we are really increasing now incorporate a smartphone-based data collection tool. And then students were given problems, very specific problem in 3 main areas. So water, energy, and food. And also how these 3 issues are connected. They work in teams to tackle those issues. So they will do, let's say they have a food-focused project or problem. Student will go out to a different restaurant to do a survey of the price of food on the island, and then check with because the island is always food insecurity could be a very challenging issue, even the import-based food. And we also encourage students to go to the highlands and take them to the highlands to visit farmers and understand to what extent, what are the barriers to making local food to be the main food sources. And so this is focus on 3 main problems. And then we help them develop very clear research questions and then bring in literature, guide their research in terms of what data they need to collect, what kind of analysis they could do, and what are the major factors they need to consider. And back to the food issue, food insecurity is considered as an economic-driven issue, so people do not have enough disposable income to purchase adequate and balanced nutritious food. That's food insecurity considered in examples in the U.S. context. But here, locally, price is definitely an issue. But in this area, because so much food is imported, and interestingly, the imported foods are less expensive than local food, given the heavy government subsidies, which actually drive a lot of the local farmers to abandon farming practice to become tourist guide. It's much more profitable to not engage in farming, which leads to more serious problem is that they are more reliant on imported food. And this is a very interesting issue that students observe. And then they, after one round of the on-site observation and doing research, the student discovered, which is very interesting, that one little city, and the restaurant serving seafood is 2 blocks into the inlet. After 2 blocks into the 3rd block, the restaurant starts serving seafood. And the students were very surprised because they observed the pattern and start asking the local people. And then the local people told them, because the first 2 blocks, the foods are for the tourists. They are the people who come with more money. And after the 3rd block, the local people come to eat. And they don't serve seafood because they serve chicken mostly. And because they know the local people, they are fishermen around it. They cannot afford to eat local seafood because the seafood price has been hiked up just to accommodate the tourists. So this is what we consider as it's a research-driven, problem-based, and also in this place, a very, very valuable experience that students can obtain. And then obviously we collaborated in this, very collaborative in this process. We put students in 4 student team, and 2 from the US side and 2 from the USFQ, the Ecuadorian university student. And they have very different perspective, and also language-wise, it's very helpful. The local people speak Spanish, and then the Ecuadorian students become very good translators for American students. So this is how it's designed, and this is the places we've gone to. So in student visit the landfill and then the waste management facility, and get to understand it's already exceeding the capacity of absorbing the human waste on this island. And you see how much a big environmental impact. And the students did this their sketchbook observations maybe. And then we also take students to do snorkeling, to visit a farm place. This is a farm place, it's interesting. They start farming, and then they become a tourist attraction site because they know tourists migrate through their farms. And then they do so by planting guava plants, because the tourists like guava. So they plant guava plants, and then when the tourists start to migrate, the tourists come to their farmland. And then they open to the tourists and become their business. But the downside is a lot of the tourists become obese, and then like this, because guava is too sweet. So you can see that all these things that there's a cycle into that. You have to understand what's their unintended consequences. And the second, the middle one, the student going to snorkeling, and then you get to swim with sharks, basically. Literally, swim with the sharks and swim next to a sea turtle and a sea. Meeting with community members. And then at the end, students come up with a proposal and what they wanted to address. If they wanted to talk about food issues, how do we connect the farmland, the farmers in the highlands, and then connect to the tourist-oriented food outlets in the coastal. Those are the final project that students presented. Yeah, some more examples on what they learned. So our students, there are students who are design background, so they have very good sketch skills, but it doesn't have to be, because this is all your own way of documenting your learning experience. And this is the GS-based smartphone tool that students now starting last year, students use this to go outside, go to different public space and collect information. And our goal is to help our students to document wildlife condition, and also eventually, in this coming years, we want to bring in environmental ecologists to help students understand what are the unique species, wildlife species on the island, and whether they can use those on-site data collection to help document their traces, their movement patterns, and their interaction with humans. And this is one of the examples help design a sustainable public space, and informed by the participatory process of community members and student own observation and their interaction with their host families and their data collections. And at the end, students present their proposal to the community members. And this is a two proposal that's presented in 2024. And this project, student is proposing have community food market, farmers market, cooking site, and then how bring tourists into more like the midpoint between the highlands and then the tourist sites, so that the tourists get a better understanding of the local conditions. And then they can spend money there, and then they help the farmers generate income by coming to this. So they propose a reuse of a local building and turn that into farmers market, cooking lesson demonstration site, and also produce educational materials. Obviously, this is also the experience of students going snorkeling. And can you imagine children who live on the island who never swim? This is why we found out, like we were there, ocean just like steps away, you can just jump in. When we went to the highland, which is not very far away, only like 20 or 30 minutes of drive to the highlands, and then we found out a lot of kids had never been into water, into the ocean. They did not have the sufficient transportation means, and then they did not have the skill. They haven't learned how to swim.
Is that because they being far away from the ocean?
It's not very fun. It's only like a 30, it's only like resource limitation. They don't even have the class that teach children how to swim. And going to this place, these are a place that you have to take a boat for an hour to, this is called kicker ride. Underneath this swaths of very diverse marine life. You can see all kinds of beautiful fish. But for local people to be able to use this, they don't have the resources. And all the tourism activity are targeting wealthy tourists. So it's a very interesting contrasting to the world. And you get to make friends, right? So this is my student, me, a student from Hong Kong and then Ecuador and then US. And it's a very, for a lot of students, transformative life-changing experience going to this place. And by the way, the NTHU, that's Association of Pacific Rim Universities, and my university and your universities are members of this APRU, so this program is open to all APRU program members. And these are the interaction with local experts, and going to the sugar plant to learn about how basically tell students how to make liquor, spirit out of sugar cane. And those are the professors. And this is a very good experience. So if I just end here, everybody will be happy. Okay, this is a good experience. But I told you at the beginning, I actually wanted to use this program to do research, to assess whether students who have gone through this program, based on our design, they have improved their accessibility competencies. So this is okay, I'll just go through this. This is basically what we did. Right, so this is evaluation used the survey. So the student did a survey beginning of the program, and then they did it again. This is the beginning survey, and then they did it again. So we have collected 2 years of data, 2024, 2025. And this is the word cloud that I put together. Pre-program and post-program. So the same group of students. And then they just put in different words. What do you see difference? Now we have the data, let's interpret this. What do you think? Can you tell the difference between these two? They're two scale, so they are similar number. So the larger the word, the greater frequency. What do you think? Conservation jumps up, right? Not surprising. This is the place where conservation took the front stage. What other things you see different? Food environment.
Yeah.
This one that when they went in, they didn't even thought about food being something. But there's one or two you mentioned. But also, based on what I heard from you at the beginning, this might be quite reflective what you are thinking too, right? Energy, renewable, ecosystem, environment, conservation. I thought I heard those words that earlier that round of people. This one, I think the one thing I want to point out was conservation and then see community. That was, I think, something that struck me. I feel like we made an impact on the scale. So accessibility is about community. This word was not very evident to begin with. So yeah.
What does it mean by circular?
Which one?
Post-program, next to future. Circular.
Next to future.
Yeah, the post.
Circular. Yeah, circular.
Circular economy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we discussed the circular economy, like collecting. So it's a urban metabolism. I consider urban as a living system where you have input output, but keep the resource within the system as much as you can. So you reduce the need for input and reduce the output of this. That's the circular economy.
Education.
Education is something.
Rice is there.
Yeah.
But interestingly, equality is still small scale.
Small scale, right? Relatively. So this, if you map this onto the 5-dimensional systems, value, future, some of the things like if this mostly students think of accessibility as materials, as environmental issues, that one definitely bring more human element component into the picture. So it's just one way to think about this. So this, if you have a chance to look into the survey, we asked students think about it, if you wanted to address sustainability values, right? So knowing that other people might have a different take on sustainability, and think about how you can address multiple sustainability perspectives. And if you wanted to gain deeper understanding, identify future alternatives, act for sustainability. So the question is asked students, can you identify different ways to become more competent in these 5 areas? Just let me know how many ways you can then write it down. So for example, some students say, review sustainability values. When they started, look at this blue. So there are students mentioning, I know 0 way. So this is number of ways. They get to pick 5 ways. So 5 students identified, I know 0 ways to help review other people's sustainability values. 2 people said, I know 0 way to address different sustainability perspectives. So this means quite a few students do not know how to be competent at these areas, knowing other people's perspective, identifying what the future alternatives should be, and how to act for sustainability. So there like an additional explanation. And after the program, people who answered 0 ways reduced. See, fewer students say, I know 0 ways of reviewing sustainability values. And then more people can identify 3 or 4 or 5 approaches. So at least when they do their self-evaluation, they felt they become more competent. So I measure competent as I know how to do it, I know multiple ways to do it. That's become more competent. So as the shift to more ways to do it, that means they feel they're more competent. This is my assessment. And then I did paired. So for students who know statistics, so this is a paired t-test. The means they know more ways to do this thing. Particularly for sustainability values, that's the most significant difference. Which means more the student from pre to post, the same student, same pair, now they can identify more ways to engage people, to understand other people's values. And that really is the most strongest impact of this program. It's because we brought students, particularly American students, and 100% white, 22 women. They had a very, very different way of thinking of accessibility, but after staying there for 3 months after this program, they felt like they are more capable and now understand other people's values. And one of them is statistics significant. This slide is showing specific competencies, right? Design thinking. This is a strategy of thinking about design with human into the consideration like user as the main address, like a core in the design process. So it's called design thinking. Being able to consider interdisciplinary data approaches, and then be able to think about future of their action, and then know how to monitor and know the politics. So this is more of the actions and strategic thinking, and then know their responsibility, and know how to use policy to effect changes, and know how to engage stakeholders, how to do public engagement. So this is when they evaluate from not aware to now I think I have high capacity, so from 0 to 4. The blue circle is data that's collected pre-program. And then the red circle are data collected post-program. You can see how in every aspect, students now perceive their own capacity to be on a higher scale. Okay? So it's all expanding, but not evenly. It's least expanding for monitoring, for politics, and future-oriented. but it's the largest increase in stakeholder engagement and public engagement, stakeholder engagement, public engagement in design thinking. So this is, in a certain way, actually reflect the weakness of this program, that we were much more focused on community involvement and less focusing on some of the technical tools. So the future-oriented monitoring, those models require data, require a good choice of indicators. And that's something we didn't emphasize in this program. So that gives us an idea of what we need to improve in the future. So, and then we asked them, this is all the teaching teaching method we use, right? We treat living with locals as a learning method. And we treat you to learn from locals, engaging them as a learning method. So we treat this all as what we call pedagogical approaches, including lectures we give them and take them on trips and then learn from peers and ask them to do research and then propose projects that's action-oriented. So this is what we found at the end. The least effective teaching approach is lectures. That really actually tells us that we need to do better in deliver in-class content. And we kind of we thought about the sequence of how to incorporate those pedagogical approaches. So 2025, we moved the lecture at the beginning of the class and help students understand background. And then incorporate lecture midway and then later in the program. So the lecture ranking is improved. And also, I wasn't at one of the lecturers there, so maybe it was my problem tuning before the ranking is set. So this is actually the last slide now. So think about me as an educator. Right? What are the implications or takeaways and for education I wanted to do better, improve, to educate students, to make them stronger, more competent agents. So one way we think about traditional learning, okay, go beyond classroom and help engage students, encourage them to engage in real-world, community-based environment. And this is will help deepen their understanding of sustainability, and then also help them gain experience and skills of how to engage with community learning. And I like to I've always now prioritize experiential learning, and experiential learning can be conducted within classroom. So, which means I bring in real-world experience, I bring in projects, I can bring outside speakers, I can bring in community members to the classroom, so I can bring experiential learning into the classroom. But the goal is having experiential learning to take stronger presence in the teaching design. The third takeaway I found is empower student agency. So in our program, students become data collector, and they become more or less insiders, and they help us understand the community. And they were given a lot of flexibility or freedom to define the project and what they want to propose, and what they think is the most important. So I kind of think that is something that can improve. Real-world projects is oftentimes very meaningful, but this is just come with challenges. Like the real-world project, oftentimes they have pre-established agenda, pre-established priorities, or pre-established deadlines. It may not work well with your learning outcome that you have for class. So sometimes the instructors or the teacher has to actually work to resolve this inherent conflicts. And also think about what is the overall framework, again, based on the learning outcome. There are different pedagogical approaches that can choose and pick, right? And often sometimes it comes with cost of resources. For us, it also means we need to spend time to work out a lot of those issues, like engage community members and then formulate a scope project that will be workable, can be integrated in our class. So this, we need to create our experiences. For me, I really consider this is my learning experience and how to be a better teacher. So yeah, this is the end of the slide. We will open up to questions. And if you are interested in joining us next year, I know your professor wants to make this happen as well.
我们看今天下午就跟院长谈，说看未来在学校可不可以开个课程是跟UO 然后一样，就是可以去上2法的那个大部分，然后会有学分的。好。时间控制得很好，我们现在就开放问题时间，就是同学刚刚听了杨老师的这个演讲啊，就对这个program 有一个比较深的了解。在这个 program 我觉得是每个我都想去报名的。对，然后老师前面先讲一些有趣教育的东西，然后还有讲一些教育学的东西，然后再来把这一套教育学的方法落实到这个阿拉巴狗岛，然后为期3个礼拜的课程，然后还有做了一些长跑车的比较，然后还有用一些你们刚刚有填的问卷嘛，那个 keyword 去当文字语，然后最后这个部分发展出了一点 paper 的，然后现在我要讲到那个研究工具，我比较好奇就是那个。sustainability 的 competency 它是怎么测的？然后在这个量表里，
这个量表
就是我们刚刚写的那个嘛，我刚刚写的那个前面几句。
对。这个量表实际上你还需要更新。对，今天学上面有没有问题？
我有要求，没有鼓励大家要发问啊，任何问题都可以问。你看，张老师这样。
就是在这两边的那个比较上面的话，你觉得厄瓜多的那一个群岛跟台湾这边的教学环境差异跟学生的学习教育有什么不一样？
其实我觉得台湾岛有很多可以做这样的教学实践。
我们现在就有这样的实践情况，也是特别认识的，因为我们会带去各种场域，并且教育部不见得对，其实会比较教学实践计划。
对，其实不见得非要去这样的一个地方，因为我们去的原因是因为这个 NTHU 有一个 collaboration， 然后呢，属于 more take advantage of establish 这样 partnership， 然后呢，再加上 Galapagos 确实是很难得去的地方，像这样的能够待到3个星期的这个，一般作为 tourist 是不能提供的小时。然后呢，我们又去做的这些可以去看到的当地的像 landfill 啊、waterfront 这些，都是只能我们是跟着这个 local 领会才能参与进来的，所以非常难得。
那个厄瓜多它本身的去发展好吗？
我觉得他们的这个重战企，他们也有挺好的这个sustainability master general plan。现在他们 they can benefit from other cases, other perspectives。他们现在的一个很严重的问题就是这个 climate change 造成的这方面的像这个 sea level rise， 还有它的这个像最近预报这个很厉害的这个什么伊 对他们来说
生意现象。
非常非常影响他。
他们那个岛之后也可能因为海平面上升而消失。
对，他们不光是海面，它本身的没有去没有这个基因死亡。他们这个岛，这个群岛本身在下沉，都是在这个群岛好应该是这边是更年轻的，这边年龄稍微大一点，就是这些年龄大一点的岛都在下沉，有些岛可能在接下来对在 sink。The older, they are all volcano, right? The older ones already start sinking. That might be carbon climate change, that might be just information.
Maybe it's from the long wall areas, also the island areas. Yeah, maybe also have same situation in your country, right?
Yeah, climate change impact mostly in the coastal areas where sea level rise is not rises.
Right.
Yeah. And we have also volcano. Yeah, we have volcano.
And then you also have the fauna and the people
Yeah.
and the birds.
Yeah. And it's impact us
No sea
because
life. No sea life.
that's impact Lombok because the Daddy Mount is containing more than 80% of biodiversity in Lombok. Now the what you call it degradation of forest and sea level also and also the coastal area also degraded. We are facing the same problems. And the question is how do we make what you call the framework for the co-production, knowledge co-production. You already mentioned that this is your thesis before is multicultural, I think. And I think it's difficult to develop it, how you develop it in the framework.
I think in this process of how we can start a dialogue, we oftentimes we step in thinking we have knowledge and we know how to do it. But when we step on this side, my immediate reaction is we really have to learn from people who are in this community. Yeah, learn and then how we are more like translator or facilitator of letting their voice be heard. Instead of we impose on them, this is the right way to think, this is the way to do it.
Because most of them is students, right?
The program is
Right.
students. Yeah. I think students actually help us a lot in terms of reducing the distance between our people versus the local communities. The student live basically. Yeah, they live in host environment. So they get to know about their way of life. So one of students found out their host family, the hospital, went out let's say weeks of fishing. And then once he caught fish, he's not bringing back home. He's going to sell it immediately in some, like in the larger, this is the main urban area, is much stronger tourist economy. So he goes to sell all these fish there at the highest price and then come. So they don't eat it.
Exactly the same. In our area in Lombok, because the fishermen sell the fish on the Asian ocean, where the big seller come and they will buy it in the middle of the sea. So the problem is, even though they are the source of protein, but most of the coastal communities is under, it's malnutrition.
Yeah. Yes. So the area of people here, they have the highest obesity rate compared to other communities in Ecuador. And this area has the highest income because of all the high value tourist economy. But they cannot afford or they don't have access to well-balanced nutrition.
Also, investigate about the local people's health. We just located.
We learned about this in our program, so there's things that we wanted to add into our program and engage more with them. One thing is food, the other thing is their public space. So because this is a equator at 1.5 degrees south of the equator, so very strong sun radiation and intensity of sunlight. So but their public space oftentimes don't have shades, so people don't have good place to go to have an active lifestyle. So exercise is not very strong. And also many people, I think food, because they have very much dependent on starchy food. Their main food sources.
这个课程里面有三个比较保育的内容，
三比较保育嘛，
我看到那个好像也会两段话，所以也会让相比较白话。这是
这附近有啥？
有的，对。但是我们这个课程对于那个专题来说没有讲这个，这个应该更像是那个农民保的那边的那地方有好多专门的 scientist 在那里做这方面的研究。
我想问，就是你们在设计这个 program 的时候，之前有先去那边做调查评估吗？然后那 program 是当地的学校设计出来的，还是？
我们在2023年在NTHU现在开了一个会，有一个那个内人还有 conference， 就是全球的学院那边点名的。然后在那个时候呢，就我们都去了以后，觉得这是一个非常好的一个教学基地的一个great site for 这个place immersive learning. So we started next year. The course design is a collaborative process. So 我和另外几个老师，但是就是我们是，就是 very beginning 这个 research component is not very deliberate. Many you know there are three issues that's water, energy, food that we want to improve. And this later on as we discuss okay, this could be education research. 对，我们的 benefit 就是USFQ 和 they already started the program in this site for quite some time. So we basically joined.
其他同学还有没有问题？硕班的。
I was wondering if within this plan that you because you mentioned that the older islands of this archipelago was sinking. Did anyone propose a method to save the islands?
I guess that's versus force. If you want to work with, I think it can be basically just adapted. So the same as signal rights, relocation, adaptive, adjustment of building sites. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, because I was wondering, since this is an archipelago, it doesn't really have the geological advanced geological like
foundation.
yeah, it doesn't really have the geological foundation like Venice that they can like just build a big wall.
No. And the central government, the Ecuadorian government is very strict in terms of protecting this area. They have a very strong control over migration policy. So you can only be a resident of this archipelago either by born to a family, or married to somebody and stay married, or have a kind of a business that's legitimate and strong enough and sustainable enough so that you can be a resident. And many people, like there are researchers who go to this place to do research. The maximum time they can stay there is like 6 months. So that's reduced the human impact. So their population growth is controlled at a very incremental small percentage.
Those kind of programs that they train the guys to do the some of the content will be different.
Yeah.
It's
Very
very
much.
much, for example, in Hong Kong,
Right.
or maybe you can bring to in Malaysia.
Yeah.
The tuition is cheaper than here.
Yeah. Like in Hong Kong, we are exploring the new program. They're based in Hong Kong and like sustainable governance and technology might be much stronger in that program.
那同学对这个课程有没有兴趣？这个课程会给6到8个学分，他们去3周就6到8个学分，然后是美国的哦，对我刚刚有想到问题，就是老师有比较说，因为你们的学生有香港的、或者是美国的，然后还有当地的学生，那他们的那个刚刚的那个层面的那个学校课是有没有 different？ 模拟样本很少，
对，
进行一些比较，就是做一些另外一个研究。
对，我们今年应该第3年收到1000万，不，应该
就变成有100分吧。
对，
因为每年30几个嘛。然后这个学费是有点贵的，就是大概要10几万台币吧。如果你们可以去，你们会有兴趣吗？然后如果院上会补助机票跟住宿，你们只要付学费，可能大家就有兴趣吧。因为机票其实不便宜，当你们没有去那一年NTHU开会，就是我们查一下机票，每个人要7万块左右。如果那笔钱院上可以补助的话，就蛮好。然后只要付学费，我觉得是一个蛮好的学习机会。而且，然后看那个依照老师他们设计的那个课程，其实蛮丰富的，还可以住到当地的人家里，然后还参观了他们的掩埋场啊，还有什么污水处理厂啊。但是住到人家家里去的时候，也要做作业吗？要访谈那些。
这个是从其实要如果真正是把这个人口如果加入到你这里，你得go through这个整个体检啊，还要learning the process.
Any student complain that the accommodation is quite different.
It's definitely different.
Because in our schools, yes, 我们的附属小学也有那个去纽西兰住在那个接待家庭，后来回来以后，家长就去投诉教育部，说有的同学住城堡，我的小孩住农舍，但是缴一样的钱。所以我在想说，美国会这样吗？美国小孩会这样吗？
就是那个 living condition 跟美国小同学的比是要差一些。
你说哪一个？
其实因为它是 local people 自己。
那我说，但是
大家都一样。
同样的都是。
对，没有。
因为我们学校现在是不一样，有的人住像别墅 villa，有人住 ranch， 那个人住那个农舍。
这个就是一样的。
所以他那个的费用是包含只有学费是10几万嘛，5、6千块。
他这个费用呢，需要问这个当地的大学，他们教授，他每年都不一样。但这个费用应该是包括了 进稿费，
但还不含 international
就不含。
的管理费。好，同学，那还有没有其他问题呢？开放最后机会。
老师，你前面有讲到那个 sustainable， 然后很好奇，就是做老师你的观察，你会觉得学生在哪一块是比较挫折，或是觉得表现没有那么好，然后以及你会就是怎么去引导这些学生？
我的感觉其实都差不多，就是说学生一般在 technical 方面的 sustainability 那个比较感兴趣，也容易把握，比如说 energy 啊，这个 resource 这些 efficiency 啊，觉得因为很直观，因为这个影响到这些环境的影响，但是它对人文和社会这方面相对来说。这个越有关，还有跟你的这个自己生存的环境体验有关，所以稍微要慢一点。但是呢，你给他这个环境，most 这种都能 pick up， 他们就觉得有一些这方面新的认知，能够就